Yo, 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 what up? It's your boy Donovan. Get stoked because we're about to start the key concepts for this Unit 9. We got key concept 911. Basically, it's based on the traditional social values rather than liberal views in the role of the government, as well as a decline in government trust in the 1970s caused by political scandals, failed foreign policy, and a sense of moral decay. So, first we're going to start out with some review stuff with Rebecca, then we're going to do some guided reading questions, some essential questions, a lot of questions, whatever. You're going to be ready for that test. It's open note. Get ready. It's going to be sick.
In the years leading up to the 1980s, a small faction of Republicans, the Conservatives, managed to gain control of national politics by building a campaign from the ground up. It all began with Ronald Reagan, a liberal Democrat turned conservative, and Barry Goldwater, the presidential candidate who brought attention to the Conservative Party and spurred the grassroots movement.
Another person who was a big part of the conservative movement was Phyllis Schlafly.
Wait. Who the heck is Phyllis Schlafly?
Well, she was a conservative activist who helped defeat the Equal Rights Amendment.
The birth of this movement was partially credited to Phyllis Schlafly's influential book, A Choice, Not an Echo, where Schlafly accuses Republicans of being Democrats in disguise and encourages the party to embrace uncompromising conservatism. In the following election, Goldwater loses to Johnson, but conservatism continues to rally support. In order to expand, conservative policies had to find a balance and unity between anti-communism, free market economics, and religious traditionalism. Conservatives found a strong supporter in the religious right, a coalition between fundamentalists and evangelical Protestants who condemned the sins of modern culture. With help of televangelists like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell, the conservative program gained more momentum. The last essential piece to a conservative victory was the ineffectiveness of the Democratic President Carter. Posing as an anti-Nixon peacemaker, Carter ended up endorsing war hawks against the Soviet Union. Furthermore, his failure in dealing with the Iranian hostage crisis decreased his popularity. In the election of 1980, Reagan secured a decisive victory and the Republicans gained control of the House.
Now that you have some background information on this key concept, press pause and do the first 5 guided reading questions for Chapter 30. So for number 1, Ronald Reagan was part of the rise of what late 20th century political phenomenon? Reagan's presidency was the start of conservatism, which supports limited government and law and order. The 3 main parts of the conservatism movement are anti-communism, free market economics, and religious traditionalism. Number 2, which issues did newly formed conservative think tanks, such as the Cato Institute and the American Enterprise Institute, work to advance? Think tanks are organizations that consist of a group of people who think of new ideas on a particular subject or who give advice about what should be done. In the 1970s and 1980s, conservative think tanks such as the Cato Institute and the American Enterprise Institute worked to advance market-based public policy, attacked liberal legislation, and also attacked the stranglehold of economic regulation they believed existed. Number 3, which development was an important factor in President Carter's sinking popularity in 1980? President Carter's sinking popularity in 1980 was due to the Iranian hostage crisis. After Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi lost power, the U.S. took him into the country for cancer treatment and to protect him from angered Iranians. So Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy and held 66 Americans hostage. They would have let them go if Carter gave the Shah back, but he refused and instead stopped all trade with Iran and froze their assets in American banks. The term Reagan Democrats describes voters who shared what characteristics? Reagan Democrats were mainly blue-collar workers, alarmed by anti-war protesters, rising welfare expenditures, were hostile to feminists, and were hostile to feminist demands. So these Democrats became known as Reagan Democrats, who sided with him on the more conservative Republican side. Number 5. What part of the Republican Party's 1980 platform reflected the influence of the moral majority? During Reagan's administration, the conservatism triumphed and reflected some of the views of moral majority, including ban on abortion, prayer in schools, a mandatory death penalty for certain crimes. Also, most conservatives were against an Equal Rights Amendment.
Now is the short answer question for this video. Please press pause and read the excerpt and answer the following questions. Once you've read these excerpts and answer the questions, here are the possible answers. For part A and B, if you used a constitutional tactic, the possible answers could have been free speech and media or courts, and court appointments, such as the shifting of the courts. If you used a political reason, possible answers could have been interest groups, coalitions, campaign funds, PACs, or once more again, courts. For Part C, evidence to support Part A would be the formation of the Christian Coalition, Supreme Court appointees, focus on the family, televangelism, George W. Bush, or some programming on Fox News. So for Part B, some possible answers would be American Civil Liberties Union, court appointees, NAACP unions, and some programming on MSNBC. Thank you.
Our essential question is, what factors led to the conservative ascendance in the 1970s through the 1990s? Declining trust in government and its role in America due to conflicts such as the OPEC oil embargo, inflation, and the Iranian hostage crisis led to a decline in liberal views in government and a rebirth of conservative views in government. Hello and welcome to Jeopardy! Okay, first question. In Jimmy Carter's 1979 address to the nation, he claimed that Americans were losing confidence in the unity and purpose of our nation. What was this a response to? Sarah.
What is declining public trust in government?
That is correct. Okay, next question. How does declining public trust in the government relate to conservatism? Bridget.
Declining public trust in government led to conservatism.
That is correct. Next question. What was one of Ronald Reagan's platforms in his presidential campaign in 1980? Bridget.
What is liberalism?
That is incorrect. Yes, Sarah.
What is social conservatism?
That is correct. Okay. Next question. What did evangelical and fundamentalist Christians do in the 1980s to increase political participation and leverage? Bridget.
What is use of media?
That is correct. Last question. Write down one thing that contributed to the growing lack of trust in the government in the 1970s. Okay, please read your answers.
Okay, mine said high inflation.
And mine was the OPEC oil embargo.
Those are both correct.